to the breakfast show on Faith FM, and we are now going to be talking about some of what's going on in the news. So what are you going to be bringing to the table today, Lindsay?
I'm going to be talking about how do you say this?
Greening the desert.
Greening the desert.
I love it. It's one of my favorite topics. I'm going to be talking about Ahmed Al-Ahmed, the hero that tackled down one of the shooters at the Bondi massacre last year. And there's a lot of people talking about him. He came out in public for the first time for an interview, and we're going to be looking into that. After that, we're going to have our interview, since it's Monday, with Justin Lohman, and we're going to be covering a lot of ground there. Tariffs decision. Did you hear that the Supreme Court of the United States declared all of the tariffs that Trump has been exacting on countries as unconstitutional?
Really?
Yes.
Whatever.
So they all have to be halted. Now there is this fear that is Donald Trump going to have to reimburse all of these businesses for all these tariffs that he illegally charged?
The consumers are the ones that end up paying it.
Ultimately, yes. But who actually pays the invoice to the government are the business owners, the importers.
Is there actually a law that says you can't do that?
Yeah.
Then,
well, we're going to find out more when Justin Lohman comes.
So we'll wait to hear.
Yes, and hear what Trump had to say about that as well, which is very interesting story. So that and much more. There's lots and lots and lots of troops, such as we haven't seen in the last 20 years, accumulating in the Middle East as well. And people are asking, is the United States ready to launch an attack against Iran?
Right.
So that's also brewing in the background. So that and much more in today's show. You cannot miss it. So Justin Lohman's interview, it's at 7:35. And we are now going to get in a new quiz question.
In the meantime,
from producer Sandy.
Let us change our thought process. So, question. Elijah ran to Jezreel ahead of which king? Elijah ran to Jezreel ahead of which king? 1 Kings 18:46, 0491064669. And Lindsay and Skafy have got correct answers for me. Elijah ran to Jezreel before which king? 1 Kings 18:46. Send us your answers to 0491064669.
Okay, thank you very much, producer Sandy. So what was the king that Elijah ran ahead of?
Pretty sure the king would have been in a chariot or something. So, man, this guy had legs.
Yeah.
This guy's been training as much as Skafy.
He was running fast. Probably he was going on supernatural power there.
Skafy, we found you a friend. Go hang out with
Elijah ran a marathon in the Bible. Okay, Lindsay, tell me about greening the desert here.
I think it was more like an ultra marathon. Remember he ran or he walked or ran something 40 days into the desert?
I don't think
After that?
I don't think he was running around all these times.
He went for a way.
But I saw something really weird. If you wanna ask me, I saw a guy on social media that he actually ran a marathon in his bathtub.
I think I saw that too.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you know that, Sandy? So he has a bathtub, just like a regular bathtub, and he walked from one end of the bathtub to the other end of the bathtub. Enough times to cover a whole marathon in, I think, 7 hours and 30 minutes. And I love one of the comments online. People said, men will do everything but seek help and therapy.
Yeah, I mean...
Hey, look, when you move your leg muscles, it produces serotonin. It's the happy hormone. Why do you need therapy if you can just run a marathon in your bathtub?
I don't know, Lindsay. Maybe you can try running 10Ks in the bathroom.
That sounds like therapy to me.
I mean, I would say as well as it, rather than instead of. But, they both can help.
All therapy can help.
I don't see myself walking my bathtub. I have better places to walk on.
Yeah. That's really monotonous. It's a boring place to do it. But anyway, so can you tell me, Skafy or Sandy or anyone in the chat, how much of the Earth's landmass is made up of desert approximately?
Oh, that's a great question.
Well, Sahara Desert. We got a good chunk of Australia.
Yeah, pretty much.
Middle East.
97% of Australia, I think.
Yeah. Big swaths of like Russia. Yeah, so
I would
don't know what percentage.
say, look, I would give a wild guess here, 40%.
It's
more or less
very close. Yeah, it's 1/3. So you kind of went a little over.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, about 1/3.
1/3. That's a lot.
Yeah. So there have been a few different parts of the world that have been trying to mitigate the effects of having a desert. So if we think of the Sahara Desert, for example, the Sahara is this massive chunk of land in northern Africa, which is creeping year by year into parts of certain African countries, just covering the place with sand. It's reducing the moisture of these places. It's wiping these places' vegetation out. And so the desert is creeping further and further.
Yeah.
The part of the world that is most distant from any ocean is called, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly. It's called the Taklamakan Desert, and it's in China. It's considered a super isolated part of the world, and it is one of the most hostile deserts in the world. So what the Chinese government have been trying to do. Now, we know that China is like a pretty decent chunk of landmass, but they also have 1 or 2 billion people that live there. Mm-hmm. So they're always looking for more space, right? And more productive land or more place for people to live. But there's this one chunk of desert that's surrounded by the Himalayan mountains and the Altai mountains and a few other mountain ranges, completely, keeping it away from any moisture. And so what the Chinese government have decided to do is try to reintroduce vegetation. And I've seen in various videos over the years that they have used different systems of matting down the sand. They've pegged things down. They've put all sorts of different sheets of fabric down, and then they've planted trees or grasses along the way in order to reintroduce vegetation so that there's less erosion, so it can actually become stable landmass. And now what they've discovered is after a few years of working on this, or a couple of decades of working on this, it's actually increased rainfall and moisture to the area by a few millimeters per year. Wow. So it's actually having a measurable
effect,
which is fascinating to me because when I think of what I've learned about the earth that God created before the time of the flood, I was homeschooled when I was a teenager, looked at creation science and the models that creation scientists have used to try to understand what the earth was like before the flood. And they imagine, or from what the scientific models have suggested, is that before the flood, the earth was a massive greenhouse and just completely covered in vegetation. So imagine this earth.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Completely covered in greenery, which makes a lot of sense because when we see the coal deposits around the world or the different minerals that are under the earth now since the flood, that comes from somewhere. It's not just.
Is that based on that idea of the firmament, like that there's like this more water suspended in the atmosphere?
I don't know about the language of the firmament so much because
effect.
that's like the dome sort of idea. I don't really know how that really works, but certainly the seventh layer of atmosphere, which they considered was a layer of water or ice, which would have then been part of where the waters from above came from for the flood, as well as the waters from beneath and the water reservoirs under the earth breaking up. So, yeah, there would have been, they said that there would have been twice as much atmospheric pressure in the world before the time of the flood, and there would have been a greenhouse effect. So a warm world,
So not a lot of extremes,
no
in terms
polar
of
extremes, no snow or
super
anything.
hot days or super cold days.
Look,
it's more like ranging in a more
tropical
acceptable
rainforest. I am imagining a perfect world, which is a tropical rainforest. Okay?
I imagine. Look. If I get a say in God's table in terms of climate, how the world should look like.
Yeah.
I would say, look, let's not get rid of snow.
No.
Let's make sure that we have places where it's
put them on
snowing.
top of a mountain in a tropical rainforest downstairs.
In top of a mountain is fine. But at the same time, like, look, if we keep the temperature range between, let's say, 15 degrees and like 25 degrees, that would be really cool, actually.
No, 26 degrees and above is my preference. But anyway.
What?
Yeah, I'm a North Queenslander. Thank you.
Wow.
Anywho.
I would say you're a cold-blooded person.
No,
you
not
need like the
at
sun
all.
to get heated
I'm
up.
solar powered and I need the sun.
Right.
No, so yeah, there's these different parts of the world. So in Africa, in China, they have been working on planting trees and grasses and digging certain shapes, crescent shapes in Africa where they can dig it into the ground and the water is trapped in those places. So it's not evaporating, and so it can be like a little wetland dotting the land.
Right.
And so over the years, this is actually pushing back the desert. It's reclaiming land. And I've always dreamt of this happening here in Australia. Like for the last 10 years or something. This is in the back of my
that would
mind.
be so cool.
Like our country is mostly desert.
You know, and there are some people doing this.
There are some farmers doing like
regenerative forestry and farming. I remember seeing this lady. Where was she? I think she was in Brewarrina or Burke, right like in the middle of the outback.
Yeah.
And she has this really lush rainforest going on because she was applying some of these agricultural techniques. She had like banana trees growing. And it was very interesting because like that area, which is not a massive area, was literally this lady's backyard. I think it was bigger than the standard backyard. But she basically has this. So all around her was just like red outback dust.
Yeah.
But on her backyard, it looks like,
Yeah. And it's fascinating because only 100 years ago, Australia had like heaps more rainforests than it does now. But because when Australian settlers came, there was a great deal of logging that took place.
Yeah.
And clearing the land for farms, things like that. It's just become a farmland. And then kind of like a wasteland. The farms have degenerated into more desert over the years, which used to be wooded forestry. So I've just always hoped that we could get it back to its former glory. But you know what? We have a great hope that God is going to come. He's going to take us to heaven, but he's also going to recreate this earth as he originally intended it, with all of its forests, with all of its beautiful climates. Perfect. And we can't make it perfect ourselves, but God has a plan to reclaim and perfect this planet.
Absolutely. That's so cool. Thank you so much for that, Lindsay. And by the way, I actually once watched a really cool documentary about regenerative forestry and agriculture. It's about 15 minutes long, but it's really amazing. If you radio friend, would you like to, for me, I can send you the link for that one. If this is a topic of your interest, send me here, #forest to 0491 064669, and I will send you the link so you can learn more about that, because I think this is such an interesting topic.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
We're going to get the answer to the quiz question first, and then we're going to jump into the news for today. So please, producer Sandy.
Elijah ran to Jezreel ahead of King Ahab.
Yeah, he did.
Yes, he did. So quite a few correct answers coming through in the chat line, which is great to see. Quite an interesting story after the whole Mount Carmel Baal versus God showdown. The rain comes, and King Ahab and the horses, I guess they can't see where to go. So Elijah's like, all right, follow me, and off he runs.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, let's talk about Ahmed Al-Ahmed. He finally came into the public. He had a 60-minute interview for 60 minutes. He had an interview for the show 60 minutes.
Yep, sounds right.
And he said a few things. So this was his first kind of a public interview after the whole incident. And one of the things that he said, it's something that I have already noticed, Lindsay. It's like a theme.
What's that?
Do you remember? I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you why I think it's a theme. He was basically being asked, where did you find courage for that? And he says, the Allah Almighty helped me. He gave me like this urge, this supernatural courage. It's just like I couldn't think about anything else other than go and stop this.
Yeah.
He really felt like that he was being almost controlled by a supernatural power. And I think that this is exactly how the Holy Spirit works.
Okay.
I think it's a thing because last year we spoke about another Aussie hero,
Okay.
Jacob Atchison, who was surfing with some friends and he saw some young kids being attacked by a shark. And at the moment he also said he's like super scared of shark, but in that moment he felt this righteous anger.
Yeah.
This is my words, not his. But he would say that he was angry at the shark, which made him to swim towards harm's way, to fight with the shark, to punch him, and to rescue the young boy that was being attacked.
That's some healthy masculine aggression right there.
That's right. Very healthy. This is what it's for. And I think that this is all this masculine aggression that you're talking about, this healthy one, this anger towards sin, this anger towards injustice, amplified by what I believe to be the Spirit of God. Now, there's some interesting things that happen in the story of Ahmed al-Ahmed that I wanted to talk about. Actually, there's a big breakout in the internet. People are arguing, is he a Christian or is he a Muslim? And they look, he clearly has to be a Christian, because look what he has done. And there's this narrative, and I think what we've seen, one of the leaders of the One Nation Australia, One Australia Party, I think that's the name, like Pauline Hanson. And she was basically saying that there's not such a thing as good Muslims, and then she kind of backtracked and said, yeah, there's some okay ones. and I was looking at this guy. Look, his family confirmed he is Muslim.
Okay.
Ahmed al-Ahmed. And my point is, there are real sons and daughters of God of all faiths, even non-faiths.
Yeah.
Now, this is why God in the book of Revelation, chapter 18, says, get out of Babylon, my people.
Yeah.
Babylon, the system of religious confusion. God says, I have my people. They may not necessarily worship exactly like you. They may not have the same understanding of the Bible that you do or about God, but they are still people that are responsive to the Holy Spirit. I think that Ahmed, it's one of them from what I can tell.
Sounds like it.
And so that's one thing. So people were like kind of screaming about it. But, is he a Muslim? Is he Christian? Everybody's trying to claim him to their group. They're kind of politicizing that. But hey, I actually think that in one hand, I can see why people would ask, he has to be a Christian. I can see why some people would consider that, because my understanding is that paradigm of loving someone, loving your neighbor, loving someone that you don't even know to the point of risking your life, it is a paradigm of Jesus.
That's Christ-like behavior.
It is something that only the Holy Spirit can give. This is not anything that is born out of human values or human virtue. This is a completely God-given gift. Doesn't not matter who is that person that is being receiving or what's their background. It is the paradigm of Christ. It is the paradigm and the mindset and of the Spirit of God. Even though in that case, it manifested in the life of a man who identified as a Muslim. I also want to talk about just a few things, because there were, I do not know if you know, there were other heroes on that day that they were not spoken of. But there were other people who attempted to tackle the two shooters, the father and the son, which is like, what a demonic thing, really. Like, who in the earth as a father would take your son to commit a terrorist attack like this one? To me, this I think that there's a high possibility here of demon possession, and this is something that Ahmed said in the interview. He said, "Look, this guy's not a Muslim. He's a demon."
Okay.
And I think that he's very right. For someone to do this, it has to be a demon. Then if this demon is disguising himself behind, some kind of religion or form or trying to make people conclude that this is, to be able to take innocent lives like this, it's a demonic paradigm for me.
Sure.
But there were an elderly couple, Boris Gurman, 69 years old, his wife Sophia, she was 61. When they saw the gunman pulling up the guns, they also lunged at them, tried to grabbing the rifle, trying to take the rifle out of their hands, but then they got shot and killed There's just 2 flashlights, bum, and they both fell dead.
Yeah.
That was before anything else happens. Nobody even suspected of the danger. These people, and I think that they are just as true heroes as
Maybe
Ahmed
even more
was.
so. Like if they gave their lives, actually.
They gave their lives. And look, Ahmed, he risked his life big time. So I think, look, I think they're the same category. Same.
They're about even, but in very different ways.
But having the same, same
outcomes.
courage of looking. And look, even like the
this is a
elderly
husband and
couple,
wife
husband and wife, both of them
On the
in their
same page.
60s.
Yeah.
Trying to tackle the man. And then after that, there was another man who was there in that event. His name is Reuven Morrison. And he was Soviet born. He was also in his 60s, 62. He has fled the Soviet Union because of anti-Semitism before. And he started to he threw bricks at the attackers. Like kind of like, in a, how you do in a cricket match.
Okay.
And he actually,
Did he knock someone?
He didn't knock, but he definitely bought some time, and he hit one of the shooters in the chest, according to some of the reports here that I'm
Winded
reading
him
from.
a little bit.
But then he also got shot right after, and he died. But he was also trying to do something at it. So
there wasn't just one guy who was trying to save the day. There was multiple people who were
lot of
stepping up,
people.
but more people died than not who actually tried to help.
And I just wanted to give them a little bit of air.
Yeah, absolutely.
Them and honoring them and their families as well. Because look, we are honoring Ahmed al-Ahmed, and rightly so. I think we should. The prime minister went to visit him. The governor general went to visit him in hospital. He was shot. I think he has two or three bullets lodged in his shoulder. I believe that his family is being fast tracked into Australian citizenship, which I think is the very least that we could do, because how many lives they've saved.
Sure.
But at the same time, I also wanted to remember those who made these invisible sacrifices. That were there, they were sacrificing their lives, they could as well. And sometimes people can ask, like, why did God protect one and did not protect the others? But I think that spirit of selfless sacrifice, of really willing to put your life in the line to rescue people that you have no idea who they are, because these people could very easily could go hiding behind the car and just run for their lives.
Yeah.
And in this case, these are, I believe, by their names here, Reuven Morrison, Jewish people who were there to participate in the Hanukkah celebration. So I think that the Spirit of God and the courage that the Spirit of God gives, it does transcend religious affiliation or denomination.
Yeah.
God has his true people scattered towards the whole earth. Actually, this is an theological understanding, that the church of God is larger than any one denomination. There is this invisible church that God has of true believers. And that's the church that Jesus is coming to reclaim.
Yeah.
People who are true believers, irrespective of their church affiliation or not. And actually, you can even say that there are people that are church affiliated that they don't have that same spirit.
They haven't made that personal relationship with Jesus.
Not a personal relationship with Jesus.
Haven't allowed it to transform their lives. They haven't come out of Babylon, even if they look like they might be in the right church, if you can think of a right church.
Yeah. The true church, the invisible church, is comprised of both people that are part of, let's say, the visible church, but also, and I might even speculate, perhaps even more people are part of the invisible church. People who get it, people who understand, and even with their limited knowledge, when God calls them, they hear his voice and they act upon it.
At the moment, I've recently been following a lady on Instagram who was a witch and who has recently come into a relationship with Jesus, completely renounces witchcraft, and she's leading so many other people in witchcraft to Jesus. Like thousands of people have been influenced by her in just the last couple of years to come to Jesus. And it's just fascinating to see how the tide is turning. How many people are coming out of Babylon and coming to a relationship with Jesus.
So this is definitely something to be grateful for, something to celebrate. I wouldn't be bogged down in these conspiracy theories. Okay, is he Christian? Is he not? Is he? You know what? I would say that he has had the Spirit of God taking over him, and that allowed to save so many extra lives. And you know what he did? He overtook the man. He overtook one of the shooters. He removed the gun from his hand. He pointed the gun back at him, but he said he didn't shoot him. And you know what? He said, look, because I'm a human being and I do not want to have blood in my hands. What an incredible story. What a great hero.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
It's now the time to conversate with our political correspondent in Canberra, Justin Lumen. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. It's great to have you with us.
Yeah, you too, Joseph. I'm in Melbourne this morning, mate. So,
you're in Melbourne. So what's happening in Melbourne? What brought you to town?
You know, these meetings that church leaders have to have from time to time.
Oh, there you go. Justin, there is so much going on since we last spoke, my friend. And why don't we start with the whole Supreme Court ruling against Trump's tariffs? What happened there and why is that a big deal?
It's a big deal because the Conservatives control that court. And only 3 of Trump's, who would be on his team normally, only 3 supported his tariffs. His tariffs, which were put in on the basis of a national emergency for, the nation's under threat, so the president's allowed to do that, or so he believed. His whole economic plan is built around tariffs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it got when he came out and made a press conference, he was visibly angry, and he said, interestingly, he said foreign influences have affected the court.
Oh.
And then he turns around and he puts a 15% tariff on, Australia's a part of that, and every country in the world that had 10% before, everyone on 10% got moved to 15%. So Trump's not happy. They believe that he'll be able to do the tariffs a different way using a different law, but this was a big setback for his administration.
It was a big setback. I was watching some snippets of that interview, Justin, the press conference that Donald Trump gave. And he said, it's very interesting that the president of the United States has the power to call in whole embargoes against nations. I can literally destroy a country, but I cannot charge them $1. So he was visibly angry. He was visibly angry.
Yeah, he was furious.
And this is the thing that people are speculating here, which will be very interesting to see if these tariffs that have been, because look, the tariffs are being paid ultimately by American businesses that are importing these items from overseas. And a lot of people are asking, does it mean if all these tariffs were unconstitutional all the way, does it mean that these people are in for a massive refund?
$900 billion.
$900 billion refund on your card or cash?
But are they going to just have to pay it themselves through taxes then? Like, how does that work?
Look, good question.
I can't see that happening. I really can't.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. They're going to go about it a different way under a different law. But I don't know. If he doesn't do this, what's the plan? Because the debt levels are just skyrocketing. It's unsustainable. This was his plan, rightly or wrongly. This is his plan. What's the plan if this doesn't work? I don't see something coming.
Another thing that I found, Justin, interesting is that when the United States escalated its trade wars with China, you remember that, I think that they were taxing some of Chinese goods for like over 100%. 120%, and then China responded. So now what happens is that China is taxing U.S. goods in 125%, but the U.S. is only taxing China in 15%.
Yeah, but the amount of goods that America takes from China, vice versa, is not fair. And it's interesting in Bible prophecy that the lamb-like beast will not permit people to buy or sell unless they receive the mark at the very end. So economic sanctions and economic power was predicted in Scripture to be a part of the last day movement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we can probably expect to see more of this no matter what the Supreme Court is trying to do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think so.
All right, Justin, let's move on then from Trump from tariffs domestically to internationally, I've heard there is reports of an incredible, breathtaking armada really gathering outside Iran, including the United States, the largest nuclear aircraft carrier, the Henry Ford, is also on its way. Tankers, oils, troops. What's happening there?
Yeah, well, America has 11 aircraft carrier groups, but there's only ever about, at the moment at least, 4 at sea. And 2 of them are just off Iran. They've moved there into the Persian Gulf. The Iranians are threatening to close the Straits of Hormuz, and they've just tested overnight a hypersonic missile launched from one of their corvettes, one of their destroyers, it's not quite a destroyer. These hypersonic missiles are very hard to defend against. And what they're threatening the US with is, we can take out your aircraft carrier with our missiles. Wow. I don't think they literally could stand a chance if America gets serious here, but this is very tense, and the neighbouring countries are worried that they'll use their missiles to destroy the oil fields, just to destroy the global economy. There's all sorts of stuff at play here. Trump is trying to get a peace deal where won't have nuclear weapons. The Israelis don't want them to have missiles, but they have massive drone factories now, Iran. Mm-hmm. They're building underwater drones. They're building air-based drones. And I think America knows that if they don't get on top of this now, they're going to have some serious problems moving forward. And they're speculating that they could launch this sort of attack on Iran and its factories and its leadership by the 10th of March. People are throwing that date around. I don't know when it'll be, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
And just a reminder that we observed very similar movements in Venezuela prior to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, where there was an accumulation of U.S. troops outside. So definitely the pressure is on.
I don't think Iran is going to be quite as easy as Venezuela turned out to be, because of, if they were to decapitate the leadership, if they were to take out the leader, who do they replace them with?
Yeah.
Because the ideology runs so deep and so strong through that country in its leadership. There's protests on the street yet again today. There's a young cohort of people over there that want to change, but that's going to be very chaotic. So it's not an easy situation.
Yes, well, that's definitely something to keep our eyes on and see what's going to happen. There's also in the news some news that there was yet another apparent attempt of taking Donald Trump's life. Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, they've shot dead a intruder at Mar-a-Lago overnight. He had a shotgun and a fuel can. A jerry can with petrol in it. And, this is a president that's been shot in the ear. There's not many United States presidents that have been shot in the ear and lived to tell the story. There's such a depth of hatred towards Donald Trump on one side and such a devotion and worship on the other. He's a very divisive figure. And there's people constantly attempting to change his influence by taking his life. So, yeah, yet another attempt. Didn't go well for the guy involved. That was his last act on Earth. So,
yeah, but look,
not a good idea, I don't think.
That's right. Look, of course, I think we can all be clear that violence should never be used to settle disputes, period. However, I'm just trying to imagine what went through the mind of a person who wanted to get inside of the most fortified compound in the universe, carrying a jerry can and a shotgun.
It probably
What was he
wasn't
thinking?
well, truth be.
Yeah.
And Trump was in Washington at the time as well. He's not even in the
It's
building.
he was not
He
even
was
there.
being
The poor
a
guy,
vigilante.
he probably wasn't well. You
No.
could say he's
Yeah.
probably suffering some, some mental illness.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the Board of Peace? Donald Trump's, own UN
how's that going?
parallel body. What's your take on that, Justin? We haven't really spoken about the Board of Peace much, you and I. What's going on there? What's happening?
No, to me, it's almost not believable. But Trump has somehow got all these Islamic countries and others to join this board. That they contribute significant money, billions.
Yeah, I think it's $1 billion for the membership.
Yeah, Trump's put $10 billion in himself, or the US, to rebuild the strip that's been so thoroughly destroyed by Israel, the Palestinian state there. He wants a two-state solution. Here we go. Let's see what can happen, because he's trying to bring peace through not dialogue and debate, but by construction, which is a Trumpian way of life. So construction's what it is. Let's see what happens.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. There you go. So very interesting. That's absolutely very interesting. Some interesting developments there. And just another topic that was quite out there in the media last week. We have the ISIS brides return. Some Australian citizens, most of them, I believe, or if not all of them, women and their children attempting to return from Syria to Australia. They have had some hiccups, but people are saying, hey, should we even allow them to come to Australia? They were connected to ISIS after all. What happened there? What have you seen in that space? Justin, are you still there with us? I think we
married ISIS
there you go.
fighters.
Yeah, sorry, Justin, you were just cut down. Can you just start from the beginning? So, what happened there?
There's 34 people involved here. One has been given a temporary restriction for 2 years. They can't return. There's a lot of children involved with these ISIS brides. They all have Australian passports, so they're entitled to the,
Oh, we're struggling to hear him again. Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, Justin, I think that your reception is not the best. Are you?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah,
Sorry,
okay.
mate.
We can get you. Yeah, we can hear you not loud and clear now. So 34 people, one got a temporary restriction order, there, but all of them have Australian passports, you're saying?
Look, our government's really trapped here because they've signed on to the UN treaties, and we have to bring our own citizens home from this camp that the Turkish government is going to close down this camp. So what do? This is feeding the Pauline Hanson train, because Australian citizens don't want these people back in the country. They abandon their country. They're regarded as traitors. But these kids are being caught up in this, and so let's see what happens. I think they're coming home, and I think this is going to cause a lot of problems for the Labor government if they can't get a handle on it.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it is a very thorny issue, because at one point, if they're citizens, they are allowed to come back, except that you have some really compelling reasons of national security not to. But at the same time, being ISIS brides, a lot of the stories that they share is that, look, they were some of them were forced to go there. So it's hard to tell who were the women that were forced to go there or threatened to go there, or who are the ones who went there by their own will and desire. Which ones are the sympathizers of ISIS ideology? Which ones are not, or even regretted, repented? I think that each story would be a different case from that one. But whatever
100%,
happens,
100%. But it's a political fallout that the average Australian doesn't want to get into that nuance of. That would be very different. There would be a lot of regret, I'm sure, in some part, and others are going to recruit. And the danger, if they left them over there, they're Australian citizens, their ability to continue to recruit from Australia or be used in some way to get at Australia is probably higher if they're left there.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult situation. I feel sorry for everyone involved in it. I really do. It's terrible for the kids. But Prime Minister said, his mother said, if you make your bed, you've got to lie in it. And I thought, well, that's about right.
Yeah, look, you have to, we are responsible for the consequences of our actions, absolutely. But as you mentioned, I feel bad, particularly for the children. They have absolutely no choice, no say into that, and they're caught in that drama. And this is sometimes, look, God does not punish children for the sins of their parents. However, he visits the iniquity. In other words, God also allows the consequences to spill over. So if a parent makes bad choices, unfortunately, because of how the laws of free will operate, often children ended up paying the price, not because God wants, but because this is the laws of cause and effect, unfortunately.
It is. Yeah.
Justin,
terrible.
Thank you so very much for today's participation, and tell us a little bit about the show. So you're back this Friday. Tell us what's happening in your program on Friday, 4:30 p.m.
Well, we go into a little more depth into what's going on in the news and how it relates to Bible prophecy, because it's quite confusing at any given time to try and understand what's going on in the world and how that impacts God's people in the future. We don't know ultimately, but we have a crack at talking about the news and explaining what the Bible outlines to be looking for.
Yes, and look, you mentioned about the lamb-like beast that speaks like a dragon being one of the prophecies in the book of Revelation, in chapter 13. And if my listening friend here, if you would like to learn about what are these prophecies in Revelation 13 and why do a lot of people think that they actually apply to the United States? And I personally believe that the United States is the best description of this lamb-like beast that speaks like a dragon. But if you'd like to learn more about it and what's going to happen in the end of times, text me here, #USA, and I'll send you a Bible study about the role of the United States in Bible prophecy. Because I think that this is a crucial knowledge to be part of every believer, every follower of Jesus in this day and age, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, amen. We live in very serious times. Everyone can see it. Everyone can see it from every side.
Absolutely. Justin, thank you so much. We cannot wait to hear from you again next month.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.